LSP educators. In the prior videos in this training series, we discussed the who, what, when, where, and why of Reggio. Get excited because now we're going to cover the most important part, the how. Knowing how to implement Reggio in your classrooms is critical to bringing the best Reggio-inspired education to your students. The major Reggio components we're going to cover in this video are the environment, our curriculum, documentation, and parent involvement. We will also be reviewing questions successful Reggio teachers should ask themselves, ways to ensure your implementation is successful, and common Reggio Emilia terminology. Let's start with how to create and implement a proper Reggio-inspired environment. The Reggio Emilia approach places a strong emphasis on the child as an intelligent, curious, and capable learner from the time they are born. One of the core principles, as you've learned, is the belief that the environment is the third teacher. For example, it is important that an infant's learning environment contains a variety of textures and colors and lighting as they interact with the world through their senses. Items should be organized and placed in a way that is inviting and aesthetically appealing. Let's take a deeper dive into some elements of a Reggio-inspired environment. Comfort and space. The space should have a variety of textured flooring that are soft to touch. This is especially important in an infant classroom as babies touch these with their hands, their face, their head, feet, arms, and legs. And there should always be plenty of space for babies to roll around, stretch, and reach for open-ended items to explore. Another environmental factor to consider when working with babies is high contrast stimulation. In the infant classroom, babies tend to focus more on high contrast images, particularly black and white items, brightly colored items, and items consisting of complementary colors. Mirrors and reflection. Babies and children have long been fascinated with mirrors, but did you know they're important to a Reggio environment for children? They provide the opportunity for students to learn their faces, self-reflection, their own movement, plus it helps to identify emotions and can be used as a tool in light exploration. How cool is that? Next is sounds and textures. It isn't possible to 100% apply the Reggio approach in all classrooms, as infants can't have access to loose parts and open-ended materials due to choking hazards. Instead, use stimulating toys made of different material, like wood and metal, to promote multi-sensory exploration. This can be done with musical instruments that make different sounds, like bells, wooden drums, and rattles. For older children, pots, pans, and wooden spoons are often used in sound exploration. You can also make tune bottles. These bottles consist of varying water levels to create different pitches when gently tapped by a metal spoon. These combine sounds and textures, but don't forget to keep a quiet space in your room. In the Reggio classroom, the layout promotes relationships, socialization, collaboration, and exploration through play. Here are some additional ways to implement Reggio in your class. Be organized. Create beautiful, engaging spaces to store loose parts and natural materials out in the open. Instead of putting all of the art materials or colorful blocks away in closets and drawers, use storage bins to display them in an inviting way. If you opt for storage bins, remember, it is equally important to store in a way that is pleasing to the child's eyes. As a Reggio teacher, I would think of your classroom setup in this context. Set up your classroom as if it was the most high-end toy store you've ever been in. Think of the toy store from Home Alone 2. This leads us to the aesthetics of a classroom. Aesthetically pleasing classroom. The design and layout of your classroom should be both functional and welcoming. This means no sterile-feeling classrooms. Your classroom should feel warm and homey. Use comforting, natural, or home-like decor. This may include plants, flowers, use of natural light, and comfy chairs and other various natural elements. And don't forget to proudly display your students' artwork. Not only does this help the aesthetics of the room, it's a major part of documentation, which we'll cover later. Exploring encourages innovation in the classroom and outdoors. The classroom should help to develop and promote independent thinking through a variety of materials. For example, Keep collections of natural objects out for the students to explore. Instead of picking one area to keep open, keep your entire classroom open by providing a variety of objects, toys, and items in different spaces or learning centers. Your design should include child height tables with art items, books, or science tools arranged on them. Make sure all the shelves and other furniture are within easy reach of every student. That said, please conduct a daily inspection of your classroom to ensure no choking hazards or broken toys are on display. Reggio is all about natural elements, so we encourage you to bring the outdoors inside. Speaking of, outdoor exploration can be done through walks, garden centers, and bringing the classroom materials to the great outdoors. Have blocks? Bring them outside. Have art supplies? Take those along as well. Who doesn't love to read outdoors on a nice day? Remember, every moment is a teachable moment, and as educators, we should take full advantage of this by facilitating learning and social-emotional growth. Now let's take a brief moment to review our curriculum. Creatively Shine is based off the latest research and trends to prepare our students for their educational journeys. Our goal is to equip each child with cognitive, social, emotional, physical, and language skills. To do this, we teach children through creative and pre-planned play. Research shows that if children enjoy learning at a young age, it will carry with them throughout their lives. The curriculum serves as a backbone to the classroom direction and structure, with monthly themes. For each month of curriculum, we have original projects and provide new supplies for themed activities. Our themes and units are followed company-wide, creating important consistency throughout all of our schools. It's through these monthly themes and projects that we observe the child's learning and exploration. But as you know, documentation is another major component of successfully implementing Reggio-style learning. In documentation, it's important to know that the process is more important than the product. Projects can fit into this formula and be educationally enriching if they are age appropriate and personally challenging to each child. With this being said, it's important to document this growth and learning. This should be done through work sampling, anecdotal records, photographs, recordings, and the developmental checklist. All of this documentation should be kept in the child's portfolio, which should be shown at parent-teacher conferences. That leads us to our last component, parent involvement. Because Reggio emphasizes community and social and emotional growth, it is important to have frequent parent involvement. This can be carried out by having parents come in and read a book to students, talk with them about an expertise they may have, or to model volunteer work such as watering classroom plants. Parent involvement may also be exercised in the monthly required project, as well as parent-teacher conferences. Now that we've covered the major components in implementing Reggio in your classroom, let's review some additional ways to ensure your implementation is a success. Let's start with some self-reflecting questions successful Reggio teachers ask themselves. Here are some sample questions to start with, but I encourage each of you to use these as a base and to come up with a few of your own. 1. Do I reflect enough? Do I take time to reflect? 2. Do I pay enough attention to my students' motivation for learning? 3. Could I observe children more often in their daily routines? 4. Do I listen to what children say with their words, their behavior, their body language? 5. Do I value equally the verbal and the nonverbal child, the artist, the rational thinker, as well as the creative thinker? 6. How do I help children understand themselves? 7. Do I pay enough attention to a child's strengths and areas of improvements? A successful Reggio teacher will also take time to listen, provide space and time to be alone. Accept that learning does not need to be lonely. Recognize the value in dialogue. Keep boredom away. Value the process of thinking. Ask why. Accept and value differences. Remove the stigma associated with disability. Respect for each child. Recognize that it is all about relationships. Observe, document, and interpret. Recognize the importance of consistent documentation. View the child as the protagonist in the environment. See themselves as the facilitator and guide to the child's learning. Understand that instruction and education are different. Now time for vocabulary. Let's review some key Reggio Emilia terms you will want to become familiar with. The 100 languages of children. This is a metaphor for the variety of ways in which children can learn through their senses, express their thoughts, and demonstrate creativity. Emergent curriculum. This is a philosophy of teaching and way of planning curriculum that focuses on being responsive to children's interests to create meaningful learning experiences. Loose parts. Loose parts are objects and materials that children can move, manipulate, control, and change during play. Children can carry, combine, redesign, line up, take apart, and put loose parts back together in countless ways. Open-ended play. Open-ended play allows children to freely and creatively express themselves during play. Children are not bound by any preset limitations. This includes playing with open-ended items with multiple possibilities, such as sculpting clay, wet sand, paint, blocks, and other loose parts, and allow for children to use their imaginations. Provocation. Deliberate and thoughtful decisions made by the teacher to extend the ideas of the children. Teachers provide materials, media, and general direction as needed, but the children take the ideas where they want. This allows children to develop skills of creativity, inventiveness, and flexibility in thinking, planning, and reflecting. Manipulatives. A manipulative is an object which is designed so that a learner can perceive some mathematical concept by manipulating it, hence the name. Image of a child. The understanding that children are viewed as competent, curious, full of knowledge, potential, and are interested in connecting to the world around them. Experiential learning. This is simply the process of learning through hands-on, engaging activities. Self-guided curriculum. Self-directed learning and curriculum describes a process in which children take the initiative, with or without help from their teachers, in determining and exploring their interests. Co-construction. According to online sources, co-construction learning is a concept that students can use to help them learn from others and expand their knowledge. Not only does co-construction among learners assist them with growing in many areas, such as solving issues together, but it also teaches students how to form relationships with their peers and teachers. Communication and dialogue between the teacher and learners that focuses on learning is one of the approaches for co-construction. Constructivism. Constructivism in education has roots in epistemology. The learner has prior knowledge and experiences, which is often determined by their social and cultural environment. Learning is therefore done by students constructing knowledge out of their experiences. Thank you for joining me today to learn how to implement Reggio-style learning in your classroom. I encourage each of you to work with your leadership staff and your peers if you have questions or ideas about Reggio, or shoot us an email at operations@littlesunshine.com. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just click the subscribe button below this video.